Welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and today we dive into the finale for Primal: The Awakening, coming from Reggie Games. Very excited to continue this battle and see whether our two hunters, LJ and Thoreg, are able to take down Ozew. It's been a tough battle so far. We got a lot of damage thrown on LJ at the tail end of part number 1. And if you want to check out that video, which of course you do if you're diving into this playthrough and coming in at this point, I'll put it in the top right hand corner so you can get yourself caught up with the how to set up, as well as part number 1 to get us to where we are currently right now. So without further ado, we're diving into a brand new round. Let's get going. The first thing we do is any start of round effects, as we know, and we're going to go ahead and do this one, a permanent Rumble of Thunder. This one's going to have us revealing a new Rumble card, so the one that's currently in play is going to go to the discard pile, and a new one off the top of the deck. This one is going to be quite a bit different, as the marked areas are everywhere in the front section and sides. The back, however, is not marked. Now, I mentioned this at the very tail end of part number 1, and something to keep an eye on, especially if you have Aylmore, which is a consumable healing potion, because if in the attrition deck discard pile there in the top left-hand corner in white, you'll see the attrition card on top is a 1, and as it states on my consumable, as we move into this step right now for both my hunters, I can actually choose to consume the Aylmore potion and actually get more bang for my buck on healing. Here's my Aylmore consumable, which is on LJ currently. It says to consume it, choose a player in your sector. Of course, you can choose yourself if you wish to heal 2, but if the current attrition level, the attrition level in the top card of the discard pile is 1 or lower, the player heals 4 instead. So we're going to consume this right now because I currently have 7 damage, so 4 healing is very beneficial. The healing's been consumed, and we're going to drop ourselves from 7 down to 3 damage. A great way to start off with LJ, but on the other side with Thoreg, he actually has 3 damage on him, and he's going to choose not to consume his Aylmore potion. He wants to get the best bang for buck there, so he's going to wait till he has 4 or more damage, and then we'll use it. Now it is time for the behavior refresh of the monster, and we're going to take a look at the lowest card we have here across the row. It's going to be this middle one here, which actually bodes well for us, getting rid of the one which will trigger for a red card being used. This is going to go away, and the new card coming in. Behavior card has been replaced. This is making the front sector of the enemy that much more deadly, as 2 cards are in here now. So if a character starts their turn in the front sector, it's going to be bad news. The monster is also going to gain struggle, 1 for each of the characters going on the card, working its way up to 6 to do its unleash. Bad news coming to LJ, because at this point, the aggro character is going to take the first player token, which means, well, this individual is going to be activating first, and that individual is in the front sector, so we have fun coming our way. Poor LJ has to deal with 2 behavior cards. Let's reveal one and find out what happens. This behavior card is known as Blinding Light. The active player is going to reveal a random card from their hand. If the card is an offensive card, they discard it. Otherwise, Ozew is going to gain a struggle, but it's going to be, again, based on the characters, -1, so it will be 1 struggle. So I'm shuffling up LJ's deck here. We're going to reveal 1 card at random. We'll go ahead and place the deck in the middle of the mat here, and we'll just go towards the middle and see what we get. Unfortunately, it does have the offensive symbol, and as the card states, Blinding Light is going to have us discard this card from our hand. We've triggered the card, resolved its effects, and at this point we look for any Rampage icon. We don't currently have one, so the card we just triggered is going to get discarded and a new one placed in. The next behavior card is revealed is called Calling the Storm, so Ozew is going to gain another struggle, and the active player must recycle a red card. So now a total of 3 struggle on Ozew. So from LJ's hand of cards, we do have a red card, so we're going to go ahead and grab that card, throwing it in the discard pile and drawing a brand new card. And there was no Rampage icon to resolve at that point in time, so we go ahead and discard, replenish. In order to replenish, I had to reshuffle the entire deck because we didn't have one to draw. I've gone ahead and draw that card, placed it in here. It's one of those ones where if our hand empties out, that one in the middle will trigger. Now on the plus side, being in the south sector with LJ actually means we're going to get some healing off this environmental effect right now, so we're going to go ahead and remove 1 damage. I'm going to choose to discard a card from hand in order to get some stamina to pay for a movement. We're going to get LJ out of the current position and maybe over towards the rock. Now I think I have the perfect blue card to use right now in order to get rid of this dazed condition. So again, the next time that I play a blue card, it's going to have the effects of the card be nulled out. So this is a great card to use because it doesn't cost me any stamina at all. I'm going to place this into my sequence. By doing so, I don't get any benefit off anything that's currently here, which is fine. It's going to have this dazed thing removed, which is great. And moving was a good choice for LJ because if I hadn't moved, Threatened Token would have come on and then I would have had to flip this behavior card over here, which I'm trying to avoid. Now this is a tough call because I could go a couple different ways here, and one way is I could pay to get a defensive card into my sequence to try to help me with the attrition pull, but I also could keep these cards in hand because one of them helps me with any behavior card effect that would happen in the future, and the other one actually lets me basically give a benefit to another player. The downside of all this stuff is I happen to use both of these right now. It's going to trigger this behavior card, so either way I go here, whether I use the cards or don't use them, bad things are going to happen to me. So I'm going to choose to hold on to these two for later. The other bonus of holding on to those two cards is the fact I get a stamina token, which will be certainly useful in the future. I went ahead and pulled the attrition card. I guess if you're going to fail it, you might as well fail it really badly. I'm in a sector with the rock, and I'm taking attrition damage, which is going to be one hit against me. I could choose to have the rock take that hit, and it would blow the rock away in that sector, but I'm going to hold on to it for later on in case it makes a lot more sense down the line. One hit isn't too bad. And worth mentioning, I'm keeping an eye on this, but I haven't had the chance to use it just yet. I don't have any blue cards in hand to reveal. Sequence now gets discarded. I'm going to go ahead and draw up cards, but I don't have enough to draw fully, so I'm going to have to reshuffle my deck. And something's going to happen when you reshuffle the deck. It's called fatigue damage. Because I've had to reshuffle my deck, I'm going to take one hit. After drawing up to 5, here's what I have in hand for LJ. The monster turns towards the individual with the aggro token. Now, as we're getting into the finale of the game, we're going to start opening up some of the more advanced things you can do with your character. So an example here would be retaliate yellow. This has you placing a counter on the card. What this means is when you take any type of damage, you're able to show a yellow card from your hand, and you're able to place a counter on this card. When you eventually build out the sequence of yellow, red, red, then you can deal 1 damage for every counter that's on the card. So it can be a very worthwhile thing to build up. So when we got a damage here from the attrition attack there, attrition damage, we can place a counter here, and we got another one because of the fatigue of replenishing our deck as well. So now we move over to Thoreg, and something worth noting is when I replenished my deck in the last video, I didn't take fatigue damage of 1, so I actually should have 1 damage, but I start my turn here in this space with the ability to heal 1, so we'll just call it a wash, and I will not take any damage. I'm going to choose to be a bit dangerous here. We're going to go ahead and stay put exactly where we are, so we're going to take the threatened token. The monster's going to react to that, flipping over this behavior card. This one is known as Thunder Charge. Not good. Ozew's going to gain +1 until the end of this turn. So a couple things going on here. First off, for the card I just resolved, we got a +1 damage to now a little bit nastier when it attacks for the rest of this turn with Thoreg. And then replenish this one here as there's no rampage cards to activate. The damage for the monster is going to be a little bit nastier, so let's get some defense going in our sequence. We'll go ahead and play this one here. Costs no stamina whatsoever, but gives us a nice bump on defense. We're going to also go ahead here and play a blue card into the sequence. This one's going to cost 1 stamina, and I do not get the ability here for charge of choosing a player to draw a card because I have the dazed condition, but this now is gone, which is good news. Now, a couple things are going to happen here. First off, we got to pay for this, so I'm using a card right here, which is actually quite insane for stamina, but the downside is when you discard it, we got to take a strain token. A strain token will come back to haunt us later when we refill our hand as we get 1 less card. Also in the top right hand corner of the blue card, there's an aggro symbol, so the aggro token coming over to Thoreg, which isn't a good thing. And that's because we have to resolve another behavior card. We're going to go ahead and find out what we have. It is Surge. Ozew is going to get a +1 until the end of the turn, another boost on damage. And thankfully there were no rampage cards to trigger, but as we replenish, a rampage card comes in, so later on that is going to be a problem for us. And to represent the increase in damage, we're going to go from +1 to +2. This next move is a really big one for me because we're going to go ahead and play this card here. It's going to cost 3 stamina, which is really insane, but it's going to allow us to stun the monster. You'll see I actually planned things out to ensure the dazed condition didn't stop this blue card from triggering. This one couldn't trigger because I was dazed, but this one can. So we're going to be able to stun it. We have to pay for it. 2 of these cards being discarded. No cons besides the cards going to the discard pile. Now, 2 things are happening here. The first one is we get a stun token to place on a behavior card, and I know exactly which one I want to put it on because I know it's going to trigger and I want it to stop. But the best thing about this is the fact that this stun means we get to tick this counter up to 2, which matches our mastery, which means it's now focused. With our mastery now focused, we get some bonuses here. If we have a blue card in our sequence, we deal 2 damage times our weapon level. And if we have a blue, red, red, then we stun the monster. And because we're still resolving our attack here, we're placing the stun on the card I know is going to trigger as a result of us using all the cards in our hand. It would have been this one right here, but it's not going to trigger now, and that's good news because if it had of, it would have also triggered this one too. Now I still have the ability to use my red scale helm here. I could take an action to discard the top card of my actual deck over here to see if it's a red card. If it is, I get to place it in my hand. If it's not, it goes to the discard pile. I don't think I'll do that this time around. So we're going to end off Thoreg's turn right here. We don't get the stamina token because we don't have 2 cards or more in hand. The attrition card comes off the top of the deck. It ended up being a 1, which matches our defense, meaning we don't take any attrition damage, which is good news because it would have been 3. Going to our end of turn, the sequence is discarded in the order it was played. We go to refill our hand, but we have some strain of -1. So instead of replenishing to 5, we replenish to 4. And here's a look at the cards that I have in hand right now for Thoreg. Ozew is going to turn towards the aggro character. We now resolve any end of turn abilities. So in this case, all the damage increase that we had on the monster for this turn are now removed. The +2 damage token has been removed from the monster at the end of this turn, which is great news. Both hunters have gone. We go to end of round. This one states each player in a marked sector suffers damage ×2. In this case is good. It's 1 now, so ×2 is 2. And they reveal 2 green cards from hand if they're in a marked sector. They can avoid that damage. So the marked sectors again are the front and the flanks. In this case, it's going to be Thoreg that has to try to do this, but I already know I don't have the 2 green, so unfortunately we are taking 2 damage. Thoreg now has a total of 5 damage, LJ has a total of 4 damage, and the stun token also comes off this behavior card. That takes us through another round of play, so we advance the round marker. Let's resolve our starter round effect, which is going to have a brand new rumble card coming in. This time, it's the last one in the deck. It's going to be just the front sector, which is marked. This time in the consumable step, I'm going to have Thoreg go ahead and consume his Elmore. This is going to give him 4 healing because currently the discarded attrition card is a 1. So we got 1 damage on Thoreg and we have 4 damage on LJ, so not too bad, but we no longer have any potions we can consume in order to get some healing back. We have things in the environment we can certainly use in order to avoid damage. Behavior refresh time, unfortunately, even though it's a good thing it took out the red card because I plan to do some attacks this time, it brought in the card with the exclamation mark, which gets resolved right now. Now, LJ does have a card in hand that when a behavior card is revealed, you may discard the card from your hand to cancel the effects of the behavior card and confuse the monster. It's a very, very cool card. It's called a shield block, but I have to weigh whether it's the right time to use that card for this one or when the rampage is going to trigger afterwards, which is this card right here, whether that one might be worse. So I'm going to go ahead and hold off because I think this one's not so bad. Although, now I'm looking at it, it's going to give me 1 struggle token for the monster, and the aggro character suffers damage unless they reveal a green card from their hand. The aggro character is Thoreg. He doesn't have green, so I actually would be getting a damage. So do I want to shield block this with LJ? I decided not to use the shield block at this moment, so we gain a struggle. So 4 struggle and 2 more will have an unleash happen, which is not good. And then Thoreg took 1 damage. He didn't have a green card in hand to reveal and show. Next up, we have Chain Lightning, which is a rampage card, which is triggering. It says the aggro player recycles a random card from their hand. All other players must recycle a card of that same color from their hand. LJ is now going to play this card to stop that from happening so we can keep the current hands that we have. We don't have to worry about anything that way, but we also get to confuse the monster. And I've replenished things in the behavior row. Let's go ahead and confuse the monster, and I'll tell you exactly how that operates. When the monster is confused, you place a confused token on the monster board, and you're also going to rotate the monster in any direction that you wish. At the start of the next round, that token will come off. Now, normally there are other ways for that token to come off, but it's based on paying for boost cards, which have not happened and won't be happening based on what's going on with this particular setup. And this is great news because remember, we're still in the monster upkeep phase. We did the behavior refresh, which triggered all this craziness. But the good news is by having the monster being confused, no longer is Thoreg in the front sector, which would have been really bad to start his turn with 2 of those cards in this behavior row. We've avoided that. Now, what we weren't able to avoid is the fact that now we're placing struggle based on the number of characters, which is 2, which means we have met the 6th threshold for unleash. Now this unleash is going to do a damage, which means that LJ could use the retaliate on his Thunder Core to show and reveal 1 yellow card which he has in hand to place another counter on this Thunder Core, which means we go from 2 to 3. That Thunder Core is kind of building up a little bit of a charge to do some damage in the future, but the 5 damage I have on him right now is not great. And Thoreg is also going to go ahead and take a damage as well, unfortunately having nothing else he can do to avoid that. Now, something that I missed from last round, which I certainly want to take advantage of, is when I burned through all the cards in Thoreg's hand last round, I should have triggered the Thunder Armor to deal 3 damage, so we're going to do that right now. The reason I'm okay with that damage going on is because retroactively it won't cause any ripple effects. I had 4 damage on, now we have 7 damage on. Once we get to 10, that's a wound. First player marker moves to the aggro character, so that's going over to Thoreg. We start off Thoreg's turn in a location where he can get some healing, which is awesome. He's going to take advantage of that start of turn ability. Now, earlier in the video, I mentioned this on screen, but want to mention it right now because I've caught myself going forward. I'm going to be doing my best to try to remember. This is something that I seem to struggle to remember, is that every single time you play a blue card into your sequence, you can remove 1 struggle, which means in the last round, we definitely played some blue cards that would have actually stopped that unleash from occurring as fast as it did. So I'm going to have to keep my eye on that one because I'm hurting myself in those situations. I'm going to choose to start things off by using my red scale helm to discard the top card of my deck, hoping that it's a red to add it to my hand. If it's not, into the discard pile it goes. It is not, so unfortunately it goes there. So my next plan, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use this Adrenaline Rush card here. This will also allow me to get some defense going here. In this case, we're going to place it in, and it's going to cost us based on how much we want to draw. So I'm going to go ahead, I think, and use, well, do I want to use that one? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Let's go ahead and use Whirlwind. So it's going to be 2 stamina. So we'll go ahead and toss that to pay for this, allowing me to draw 2 cards. We'll see what we get. We did get a red card. That's nice. Gotta like that. It's also a 0-1. And another red card, Heavy Smash. That Adrenaline Rush was absolutely worth it. We're going to go ahead and play this one in, and this is going to be costing 0 stamina. It's a red card going in, so it doesn't matter about this ability through the center here. It is going to pull the aggro token, but I already have it. So this is going to do some damage, but the great thing is down here it says when you play a red card, place a counter on this, and once you have a max of 3, if there's already 3 here, then you're going to go ahead and remove all the counters from this, and you're going to be able to stun the enemy. The stun's going to be placed on this behavior card here. We currently have 7 damage on the enemy, and we're putting 4 on it from our Skull Shock weapon. So that's going to be 11, leaving us with 1 there and a new wound going on the monster. Not bad at all. Let's keep at it. I'm going to choose to do Heavy Smash, which is another red card going in, costs 2 stamina. So both the cards in my hand are going to be tossed, and I have no more cards remaining, which means my Thunder Armor is going to deal an additional 3 damage on top of it. So this one here states I can remove a struggle, but it's actually not going to be beneficial to me. And again, my Mastery is all the way up in focus. I could remove 3 struggle instead, but there's none on the monster at this moment. So we get 4 plus the 3 from my Thunder Armor for a total of 7. The monster is sustaining some big time hits, and again, this is not going to trigger because we stunned it. We do not have 2 or more cards left in Thoreg's hand, so no stamina token. Attrition's going to come out, and it's a 1. It matches our defense, so we're safe. Sequence was discarded. We have 5 new cards in hand. The monster's attention goes towards the aggro token, which is Thoreg. And now we can move on to LJ's turn. This time LJ is in the sector with a rock, so no healing. I'm going to choose to stay exactly where I am, so I'm going to take a threatened token for not moving, and at this point we can start moving into our actions. I decide to put a defensive card in play in my sequence. It's going to cost me 2 stamina. I use 1 token, which I had on LJ. That's discarded, plus discarding a card for 1 stamina. That will cover the 2 cost, and this one tells us that we're dealing damage to the monster equal to the damage you currently sustain. So I can use the fact I have 5 damage on LJ to place 5 damage on the monster. This is going to meet the 10 we need to get another wound, leaving 3 here on the stance card. Next up, I'm going to play Shield Strike. This is going to be a 1 stamina cost. It does have aggro, so it's going to pull the aggro token over. We'll place it over here with LJ, and I've paid the stamina cost here by discarding this card. This says Shield Strike is going to increase the damage this attack deals by 1 for each of the yellow cards in your discard pile. Well, I don't have any cards in my discard pile, but I do have 2 yellows and one I just placed in recently, so 2 damage on top of the 4 base from my weapon is going to be a total of 6. So we're now up to a total of 9 damage on this card, 1 more, and we get another wound. But the good news here is that a yellow and a red in sequence is going to have my counter for the Shield Master on my Mastery card go up by 1, which means we need 1 more in order to focus. That's going to do it. We're going to stop right there as we've run out of cards. Now, normally this would trigger, but because it's been stunned, thanks to Thoreg, we don't have to worry about it. So we went very aggressive during this round of play. This isn't going to trigger either at the end of the action phase because I don't have a blue card to reveal from my hand. We check the attrition value, and it's a 0, so we are definitely good with 1 defense. Sequence is now cleaned up. We got 5 new cards in hand. Monster's going to flip around towards the aggro player, which in this case is LJ. End of turn is all done. We now move to end of round. We, of course, have the permanent here. So any player in a marked sector suffers damage times 2, unless they reveal 2 green cards from their hand. Marked sector is the front sector, which is going to be LJ's. And unfortunately, he does not have 2 green, so he is going to be taking 2 damage. You might think that damage can be stopped by the rock. I would love and wish it could, but only attrition damage can actually be blocked by the rock. So unfortunately, in this case, 2 damage on LJ. The round marker is also going to advance down to the next spot, and it's worth mentioning we are 1 hit away from getting the next wound that will change the monster to stance 3. So we're very close to that final stance. Going into the new round, we need a new rumble card, so we'll go ahead, discard that one, bring another one in. We have this one, which has the front section and the 2 flank sections, which are going to be marked. It's also worth mentioning at this point in time, the confused token as well as the stun token are coming off. Now, I just noticed something that I missed from the very end of the last round, and that is the ability when you avoid attrition damage like I did with LJ to add the top card of your discard pile to your hand. If that card is a red card, it deals 3 damage, and it is a red card, so we're going to go ahead and get 3 damage, which is going to push us into that stance 3. I'm really happy that I was able to catch that just before we get into this other round because it makes a big difference as we now head into stance number 3. So the stance 2 card has been removed. We have a toughness value of 3, which makes it 6 for the 2 characters I'm controlling. So we need 6 damage to get a wound going forward. We currently have 1, 2, 3 more wounds necessary in order to take this thing down. So it's getting weaker by the second. All of the opening sectors are available to hit from as normal, and the damage amount is still the same here. Now, a couple things changed. One, we had a new peril card come out. This one says at the end of the round, Ozew's going to gain a struggle for each player in a marked sector, so that's going to add something to the fray. But a when revealed effect here says that not only will Ozew gain a struggle token right now, it's also going to remove the objective from the game. We cannot inflict blind on it anymore by getting that blue, red, red sequence. LJ has a lot of reactionary type stuff, and I actually missed this on LJ as well at the end of the last round, and that was the 2 damage that got put on LJ actually allows me to use the retaliate here by showing at least 1 yellow card, which I have, allows me to put another counter on this card, building it up for quite the attack if I can pull it off. So back to where we were, we're currently at the very start of a round. We're moving into a consume step. I'm going to choose to go ahead and consume this Hatrox potion here. This one states, suffer damage equal to your weapon level. Your weapon gets +3 damage until the end of this round. So I took a damage. We're up to 8 with LJ, but now his weapon is throwing 7 damage every time. I'm going to choose not to use any consumable on Thorreg's side, but I did notice something in his hand that I didn't pick up on the first time I replenished his hand, and that is a card right here that says this card does not count towards your hand size limit. So I should have actually had another card in hand in order to get up to that 5. Again, I have a total of 6 cards here in the end, but this one doesn't count, so that gives me a little more options. Consume step is all done, as well as catching a couple things along the way. We're into the behavior refresh. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the lowest card here in the row, which is going to be this one on the left. A replenished behavior card. This one will trigger at the end of the next hunter turn. Now going into the struggle step, I placed 1 struggle here from the when revealed when we changed to stance 3, and we have 2 more coming in for a total of 3, so we'll go ahead and just flip this over. So we got 3, we are 3 away from another unleash. The hunter with the aggro token is going to take the first player marker, and we're going to go ahead with the first hunter turn. Start of turn effects is going to have this one trigger this behavior card because we're in the front sector of the creature. Let's find out what it is. This one is Calling the Storm, so he's going to gain a struggle. The active player must recycle a red card. However, Thoreg is going to step into the situation using a card from his hand. So this is not the active player using it, it's Thoreg, and he's using a card that says when a behavior card is revealed, you may discard this card from your hand to cancel the effects of that card. So we didn't have to deal with the behavior card effects, which is awesome. We had to replenish the slot, which I've done, but in order to do so, we had to reshuffle and recreate the behavior deck because we ran into cards. And so because of this, escalation occurs and another struggle goes onto the monster for a total of 4. I'm going to choose to stay exactly where I am because I plan on going absolutely nuts during this turn. We're going to go ahead right off the hop here and play Shield Smash. This is a very powerful card. It's going to cost 2 stamina. It not only provides defense for me, it also has the ability to get the aggro token, but I already have it. And it's going to cost me the 2 stamina, which I'm going to pay with this card, discarding it into my discard pile. So we got that, and it states on it, deal your weapon damage, which currently is very high. It is a 7, and it says you may choose to suffer damage to deal double that damage instead. So I'm going to go ahead and suffer the damage from the monster, which is going to be another hit, but that makes it from 7 to 14 damage. So 14 damage on top of the 2 we have here is 16, and when we need 6 for each wound, that deals 2 wounds with 4 damage left over. We only need 2 more damage to take this thing down. I'm going to go ahead just for fun here and use this red card, which is going to sync up nicely because a yellow and a red will allow me to bump up and be able to get my mastery. But it doesn't matter because this shield strike, once I pay for it, using a card from hand for stamina for 1, is going to allow me to do the damage of 7 yet again, which is enough to take down Ozew. In Primal the Awakening, the moment the monster has been reduced down to 0, you immediately win. And that, my friends, is everything you need to know to get the game to the table in Primal the Awakening. I really hope this helped you get a great idea as how the game flows and operates. Of course, you probably noticed as I went along, there were a couple times where I might have forgot something and kind of went back and corrected it. There will be times when that happens, even when you're playing just by yourself. But I can tell you, when you're also filming it at the same time, it is a lot to keep in your head to make sure you kind of don't miss certain things at certain times. So I hope it did a great job at least getting you from A to Z to show you how this thing flows and operates. But I also want to make mention of the fact that I didn't employ every strategy that I might have done outside of this playthrough. So for instance, there are keywords you'll find on the bottoms of the cards you can leverage. There are keywords on the cards themselves that you can leverage. There's different ways that you can actually interact between the characters by basically assisting your character and providing them benefits. There's all these keywords to explore in the game that can provide very cool combinations and synergies. You definitely don't want to think that the gameplay is just what you've seen here. There is a ton to dig into and a lot of depth in this boss battler. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up the showcase for Primal the Awakening coming from Reggie Games. I had an absolute blast playing this thing on camera. I've played this thing on and off camera multiple times over the course of the years because, of course, I covered the prototype when it first went to crowdfunding. I was hoping at that time, that crowdfunding campaign, that was going to be what the final version would end up being. And I can tell you right now, it absolutely is, and then some. This game, if you're looking for a boss battler, look no further. This is a fantastically designed game. It does not overstay its welcome. It doesn't have an obscene amount of components that you have to manage. The major thing that you have to manage during gameplay on a solo side of the equation is really just managing the synergies between the 2 characters and making great use of the cards, because there's a lot of times as a solo player when you might be controlling one character over here and focusing on what you're going to do with that character, you might miss out on some things that the other character over here can actually add in to your turn out of turn. And that's a really important aspect of strategy as well, especially as you start to go up in the tiers of difficulty in expedition mode. Also, don't forget about campaign mode, which is going to just add even more layers of insanity to the equation, allowing you to craft new weapons. You can start talking about bosses' weaknesses. Up on the dashboard up there in the top left-hand corner, you'll see that they're weak to certain things. You can have certain weapons you built out that are going to help you against certain monsters. The campaign has all kinds of things for you to explore. So if you're interested in the boss battler, I definitely recommend this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.